The beauty of the NFL is that no team is good or bad forever. Sometimes a dynasty runs its course and greatness slowly fades away, and sometimes years and years of misfortune and poor play are resolved by a couple of franchise-changing moves. We have seen a number of teams in recent history become the latest to go from rags to riches in the NFL through a number of different avenues and steps. So, we're all now left looking for who is next. Who will be the next team to make a franchise-defining move and escape mediocrity once and for all? Well, I believe we may have already seen it happen. This season, the New York Jets traded for Aaron Rodgers, longtime Packers star quarterback, and I believe this move is not being talked about enough, as to me, it is the move for a franchise long plagued by mediocrity to finally make the jump to greatness. The first thing I want to say is that I think the value of Aaron Rodgers in this trade is being greatly underappreciated. Aaron Rodgers, in my opinion, is one of the 3 greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game of football. Yes, last season was not tremendous. That was not the MVP level Aaron Rodgers that we are used to seeing. But you also have to consider the situation. He had just lost Davante Adams. There was turmoil with the organization. Things just never felt like they were going to work from the start. The Packers were not the same Packers they had been the years before. And just before last year, Aaron Rodgers was quite literally the MVP of the league for 2 straight years, playing at some of the highest levels of his career. I have very, very high confidence that Aaron Rodgers moving to a better situation in New York will greatly increase his play. So, why the confidence? Why am I so sure he's just not fizzling out, as a lot of old quarterbacks do? Well, Tom Brady, who many view as the model of consistency in the NFL, in his last season in New England, when things started to crumble a bit, had his worst PFF-graded season since 2013, at an 80. Then, the year following, he moved to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a much better situation. And things picked right back up where they left off, as he earned a 92 grade in back-to-back seasons. Tom Brady's situation moving from the Patriots to the Buccaneers perfectly mirrors the situation of Aaron Rodgers. A quarterback coming off of some of the best years of his career, in their final year with the team, due to dysfunction and disagreement in the organization, performing at lower levels than expected, and then ultimately moving to a better situation and returning to their previous self. That is what Aaron Rodgers can do in New York. Aaron Rodgers can return to be his MVP level self and one of the best quarterbacks in the league once again. Now, who's the guy that Aaron Rodgers is replacing? Well, I'm sure all of us are very familiar with the struggles of Zach Wilson. Now, though I had faith in him, and he was the number 2 pick in the draft just 2 years ago, Zach Wilson, by all accounts, had one of the worst quarterback seasons in history last year. He ranked 49th in catchable pass rate, had negative 14 expected points added, and 55% completion percentage. And those were just the beginning of the woes of Zach Wilson. He was flat out terrible for the Jets last year. So, naturally, going from Zach Wilson to Aaron Rodgers is a massive upgrade, going from one of the worst quarterbacks in the league and one of the worst performances ever to an MVP caliber quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. Now, looking at the Vegas line for Jets wins this season, it is over under 9.5 wins. Well, considering that they went from maybe the worst quarterback in the league to one of the best quarterbacks in the league, surely, based on that number this year, the Jets had to be one of the worst teams in the league last year, maybe at best winning 4 or 5 games, right? Well, in reality, this was not the case at all. 11 weeks into the season, the Jets were 7-4. And if it were not for them completely unraveling, they could have easily snuck their way into the playoffs. This Jets team was a good NFL team with Zach Wilson as their quarterback. So imagine what they can be with Aaron Rodgers. The Jets have one of the best defenses in the league. Garrett Wilson, a star young receiver paired with some other young weapons and veterans of Aaron Rodgers' past. And they have one of the best young head coaches in football in Robert Saleh. Now, what about Nathaniel Hackett, their newly signed offensive coordinator? I mean, he just led maybe the biggest disaster class in the Broncos we have ever seen. How can we expect anything different this year? Well, I think more than anything, that was a perfect example of a head coach being more about culture than about coaching. Nathaniel Hackett, before he went to the Broncos, was actually Aaron Rodgers' offensive coordinator in Green Bay, when Rodgers had back-to-back MVP seasons and was leading one of the best offenses in the NFL. Nathaniel Hackett is a good offensive coordinator with chemistry and the ability to build an offense successfully around Aaron Rodgers. So, the Jets are the perfect place for Aaron Rodgers to come in and make a difference. I do believe that the Jets have now put themselves in a position to win a Super Bowl, despite the stacked AFC. When we look at the past Super Bowl winners, there is often a common theme. The past 3 years, the champions of the NFL have been the Chiefs, the Rams, and the Buccaneers. Before the Chiefs, in back-to-back years, the Rams and the Bucs both shared a common path to the title. Both were great organizations with win-now rosters who were previously held back by subpar quarterback play. Bringing in a veteran, in the Rams' case Matthew Stafford, and in the Bucs' case Tom Brady, took both teams to the next level and won them the Super Bowl. Well, Spencer, how can you compare Aaron Rodgers to the likes of Matthew Stafford and hell, even Tom Brady? He's a playoff choker. He hasn't done anything in Green Bay since 2011. Well, Matthew Stafford, before he came to the Rams, was a player who was also dubbed as a playoff choker. Despite the eye test, people believed Stafford could not do it in the big game. However, in reality, it was just another classic example of misjudging a player by their surroundings. Stafford was always a Super Bowl winning quarterback, just one who was never in a Super Bowl winning situation. Aaron Rodgers, to me, has a lot of similar qualities in that regard to Matthew Stafford. I believe he is another player that passes the eye test with flying colors. And often, in Green Bay, simply, due to factors he couldn't control, he didn't have the opportunity to win the championship like he has now in New York. If Matthew Stafford can come into an organization built to win a title and win it, so can Aaron Rodgers. Well, yeah, sure, Matthew Stafford, but that could just be an anomaly. Tom Brady is the greatest playoff quarterback of all time, right? You can't compare Aaron Rodgers to Tom Brady. Well, what if I told you that I can? What if I told you that Aaron Rodgers might just be as good as Tom Brady in the playoffs? Yes, the rings are not there to show for it, but the play from Aaron Rodgers is. In playoff games, Aaron Rodgers-led offenses have scored on average more points than offenses led by Tom Brady. He has not lost because he failed to put up points, but rather because his defense and other factors let him down. Aaron Rodgers is the second highest graded playoff quarterback in the PFF era, only behind Patrick Mahomes. That's right, above Tom Brady, above whoever else you believe is a playoff winner. Now, sure, you can bring up a play here or a play there where Rodgers does not deliver. But at the end of the day, that is the truth for many, if not all, of the NFL's greatest quarterbacks. Perfection in the NFL is impossible. That is the reality of it. But we have seen Aaron Rodgers make some of his biggest plays in the biggest moments. And we have seen him play some of his best football in the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers is a Super Bowl winning quarterback, a quarterback who performs in the playoffs, a quarterback who is often held back from winning due to factors he cannot control. Coming into New York, Aaron Rodgers is next in line of quarterbacks coming to new situations and thriving. In New York, Aaron Rodgers is going to have one of the best defenses in the league, maybe the best defense he has had in his entire career. He's going to have a coach he can count on, a coach that has led a defense to being one of the best in history and all the way to the Super Bowl. He's going to have a good offensive line with young talent surrounding him alongside veterans of his past. In New York, Aaron Rodgers will not be held to an unreasonable standard that he has been held to for the majority of his career. A standard that he must overcome his defense's inability to stop the opponent. A standard that he must elevate a dysfunctional coaching staff and inadequate weapons to the point of perfection. Aaron Rodgers now gets to be Aaron Rodgers and let the winning come along with it. The Jets are next in line of teams that have had the courage to make a move in an attempt to escape mediocrity. They were able to make the jump from Zach Wilson, maybe the worst quarterback in the league, to Aaron Rodgers, an MVP-level, Super Bowl-winning quarterback. Aaron Rodgers can return to his prime MVP form under a good coach, his former offensive coordinator, and tons of young talent in New York. Aaron Rodgers can finally be Aaron Rodgers without having to overcome. And in the process, the Jets have put themselves in the perfect position to compete for a Super Bowl this year and for many years to come.